how did you start writing? Because your main language is actually Indonesian, not English. I mean, that's your...
No, no.
Right? You
No.
started with Indonesian and Dutch, probably.
Originally, what I call my mother tongue, which is the language I speak, I thought, I felt in, was Dutch.
Okay.
I was brought up Dutch. Then we immigrated. And because I was very aware how, let me use the phrase, second-class citizens were treated by the so-called first-class citizens. I did not ever want my children to be treated that way. So consequently, as soon as we made the decision to immigrate, I spoke English with my children. And in the home, I assimilated. You know, we had Western food and we spoke English. So, because I never wanted my children to go to school and be chided by their classmates, and even more so, maybe by their teachers. And doing that, I lost my mother tongue unknowingly. I've always written. When in my young years, I even won writing contests.
That's in Dutch, of course.
In Dutch.
Not in Indonesian.
No, in
Okay.
Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when I decided it was time for me to go back to writing, I started to try to write in Dutch. And guess what? It did not work. You know, and for me, it was a big shock. It took me quite a while to get over that. But then finally, I realized I had to speak in English, the written word. But then I realized also I had to go back to school, because though I knew English quite well, I spoke it fluently, I read it without a problem, I wrote it, but writing, this is a total different story. So I went back to school, and then so that's how I became, you know, and then I joined writing workshops, and you know, it just goes through the paces.
I see. So you went to a special school to write, or
No,
you're self-taught?
What I did was I took private workshops from well-known writers, and I took all the creative writing classes that were available in all the nearby universities, you know, and so I learned that way. And then it was just a matter of, you know, sticking with it.
Okay.
And going through edit after edit after edit, you know.
So when you decide to publish a book,
Mm-hmm.
You had to go through several steps. How do you approach this big publishing company?
Well, that is the hardest part of my writing career. Okay, so after, if you condense all the time, it's 7 years that you're looking at here. 7 years. Okay, it's 3 years of marketing. Okay, before I took this leap. After I had written the book, and I got a blessing from my editor, who is a professional editor, now we were sending it out to literary agents. And while I had 2 or 3 bites, in the end it didn't work. then things happened in my family, and I had to take a leave of absence of my own for about a year and a half or so, that I didn't do anything. And
at the moment you finished your book already, it's
Yeah.
just a matter of marketing it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then, meanwhile, all kinds of publishing systems came up, besides the Random House and the Knopf. New ways of publishing came up. One of the ways of publishing is Publish America. It's not my first choice of publisher. If I were 40, I would not have gone with them. I would have stayed probably until I found an either independent small one or work with an agent. But let's face it, I'm not 40. I don't have that many years to, fetch around with this. Plus I had advice from people who are known in the industry, and they told me, you need to get it out. That's the first thing. You need to get it out. And so I went with Publish America and I got it out. And I'm not sorry, because I knew when I went with them what I had to do. But that is that you, as an author, have to market your own book. And unless you are behind it, nothing is going to happen.
So basically, how you did it, you got a blessing from the editor. That helped, of course.
Yes. And I had the advice of important people in the industry. One of my main strongholds is Alan Rinsler. He is the executive acquisition editor from Wiley and Josie and Bass, and he was one of the people who really pushed me to go ahead and do it, So, that, and then combined, when I came back to my book after my 1.5 year of doing nothing, I had some health issues. Fortunately, that's behind me. But, things like that make you think in decisions and in the context of time. Time becomes very important. Time is always important, but at a certain time in your life, it's even more important that you do what you should be doing,